In this video, I want to talk about some of the ideas I have for how you can improve in the lifts, not just in any particular snatch, clean, or jerk, but in really all of them, and even lifts outside of the normal weightlifting movements. For several years now, since I really started weightlifting, I've been mostly coaching myself from the initial stages. I've had some help, but I've never had any direct coaching, so I've had to really rely upon myself to develop things, to figure out exercises, and to really improve, and I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I started with, I believe it was a 60 kilo snatch I did one time in college, to getting to about 70 or 80 kilograms when I was first getting into it, to now doing a 130 kilogram snatch on a regular basis with a max of 135. Same with the clean and jerk. Started not even being able to clean 100 kilograms to being able to get that, to now being able to clean a jerk in excess of 160 kilos every once in a while, and being able to clean upwards of 175 kilos is my current best. And there are some concepts that I've used over the years to improve upon those. And they're really separated into kind of 4 different categories, or at least 4 different topics that I'll cover in this video. 1, positions and mobility. 2, technical eye and camera. 3, kinesthetic awareness and athletic ability. And 4, grit. A huge aspect of weightlifting are the positions that you're able to get into and the mobility that you're able to have while in those positions. If you look at a lot of intro videos and tutorial videos of how to do any of the lifts, you'll notice that a lot of those people go into those positions. But for at least me, when I first started, I struggled at some of the positions. I could squat all the way down, but things like a front squat were difficult for me. And at that time, when I was learning how to do a front squat with that front rack position like a normal front squat, I wasn't trying to do any of the weightlifting movements. I was just trying to do front squats. But if I had been trying to do weightlifting at that point, I would imagine I would have struggled quite mightily at the clean if I wasn't able to have that front rack position. So it's really, when you first are looking into how to learn any of the lifts, you have to figure out what your mobility limitations are and what positions you're able to get into. If you can't squat all the way down, there's not really much point in learning the full clean if you're not able to fix that positioning in the bottom. You can still learn the lifts, but it's something you'll have to address and have to fix. For a similar reason, your front rack position, if you're not able to do a regular front squat, you probably don't want to try to do cleans because you might get yourself hurt if you're not able to rack the bar in that front rack. Same with overhead squats with the snatch grip. If you're not able to hold the bar behind your head in a semi-comfortable way and squat all the way down and back up without running around the gym, you probably want to work on that at first. And that gives a lot of people a big insight about how difficult the weightlifting movements are. When I am first teaching people, when they have asked me over the years every once in a while, when you first take them through and say, all right, we're going to try to do an overhead squat, they realize that even just the bar is extremely difficult to do for the mobility aspect of it. Most, if not all, the people I've tried to teach, or at least have asked about learning the movements, have plenty of strength to snatch and clean and jerk a significant load, or at least enough more so than the bar, I should say. And what is often limiting them is just their mobility and the positions they're able to get into. So you have to be able and willing to get your body to be in those positions, and stretching and mobility is imperative for that sort of thing. Thankfully, it's one of the things that I had pretty naturally when I started weightlifting. I was able to get into all the positions. I didn't have any mobility limitations. I was just really weak, which is a much easier problem to fix than mobility, at least in my experience. So once you have the mobility and you're able to get into the positions that you need to be in the lifts, you need to start improving your technique, and that's really the second part. Developing that technical eye and using a camera. For people that have a coach, it's kind of taken care of for them, but at least for me, I never had a direct coach that was helping me all the time. So I had to depend on myself, my own technical eye, my understanding of biomechanics, and really use a camera all the time. Now, for people that are learning the lifts, your camera is your best friend. You don't want it to be a crutch in the sense that you do one rep, look at the camera, then you do another. You want to still do normal working sets, but you want to get into the habit of using the camera to look at your lifts and to be able to correlate what you see on the camera with the feelings that you have in the actual lifts. So what that means is that when you are trying a different cue or trying a different position, or you're trying something different in the lifts, you want to correlate that feeling with what it looks like on the camera. So maybe you're trying to have a lower hip position in the start of your pull. Well, you try to do that, you look at the camera, and you say, well, that felt better or that felt weird, but it looked better, so you want to continue to work on it, whatever it may be. It's a way to assess yourself in a very objective way. And the way that I would recommend filming for most people is directly to the side and directly to the front. For me, that always gives me the most information about the lifts that I want to be able to see. So directly from the side, you're able to see your hip position really well in relation to your shoulder position and different parts of your body, but you're also able to see the path of the bar in a very direct way when it's to the side. You're also able to see if you're jumping back or you're jumping forward and things like that, which are also very useful to be able to try to fix in your lift, since you don't want to be jumping all over the place, which how I used to do very frequently when I was learning the lifts. The other angle that's very important as well is to record from the front. Now, this is one angle I'm not really able to get when I'm lifting in the shed, but it's one I try to get when I go to the actual gym, because I do have that, just more space to be able to do that. The reason that it's beneficial to record from the front is that you're able to see things like your hip shift, you're able to see the center of the bar, if it's moving to one side or the other, and you're able to see the levels of the bar. So if it's tipped over to one side, if you have some weird thing that's happening, you can kind of see yourself twist a little bit, but it's more so to see the symmetry, which is a very important aesthetic of lifting, that the better that you are at it, it tends to be the more consistent that you are at the lifts, for not just the weightlifting movements, but for really most movements that you're going to do in the gym. And so the biggest advice that I give for this, or I can give for this section, is that you should use a camera, even if you have a coach. I really think most people should be using cameras on a very consistent basis, even if you never want to post any of your stuff, just to be able to see, all right, that felt good, and then you look at it, you can correlate the speed of the lifts, you can correlate how it felt with what you see on the camera. Very oftentimes I'll see a lift and I will think that looked like it felt really hard, and then I'll look at the video and be like, that did not look like it felt hard. Perfect example of this is the other week when I did a 170 kilo clean. I clocked the first rep. I didn't try to go under. I looked at the video after that first rep and I looked at the speed from which I pulled the bar, and I was able to assess right there that I pulled it fast enough. I just need to man up and go under the bar. So it's kind of a useful thing, because I may have a coach there. I could have a coach somewhere that says, all right, you pulled that fast enough, now you just need to man up and go under. Or I can tell myself that by just looking at the video and having that evidence that's right there. And conversely, if I see something that looks really weird, or I catch a snatch that looks kind of odd, or like my shoulder's kind of buckling, then I have the information to say, all right, that's what I need to work on to get stronger, or the technical thing that I need to fix. And so developing that eye of your own lifts using the camera is just such an important thing. And it's something that when I first started lifting for powerlifting in college, I would film everything because I wanted to post it, but also I wanted to not look like an idiot. And that's one of the most important things to improve the aesthetics of your lifts, is so you don't look stupid. And you want to find things, and that's the part where I'll end in this section, is you want to find things that are going to have the biggest carryover. So if your feet are a little bit narrower or a little bit wider, not really that important to fix, but if the bar is looping way out in front of you, that's going to be a bigger important thing to fix. So you want to get a camera, be comfortable using it, get in the habit of using it very frequently, and then try to correlate what you see in the camera with your feelings on the bar, because then you'll get to the point where you don't have to look at every single lift on the camera, because I felt this, and you already know what it's going to look like on the camera, so you're able to correlate in both directions with that. But using a camera is so important to improving your lifts. This next section of kinesthetic awareness and athletic ability relates to the previous one, but it's a different section. I wanted to separate it because it's a concept that's hard for people to understand, and it's one where if you do have a coach, you don't really develop this ability as well as if you are trying to coach yourself with a camera, at least from my experience. A lot of people who don't like to look at their own lifts or to analyze their own technique don't really get this development because they, one, don't look at their own lifts, so you don't know what you don't know, but also they're not trying to actively improve upon what they are feeling in the lifts. So you can look at your technique on a camera and try to improve things in that regard, but you have to be able to improve the feelings that you have at the bar. Do you feel like you're putting the most effort in? Do you feel like you're moving effectively? Does something feel off? You have to have that awareness of your body and how it's moving to know if you think you're doing something right, and then you can correlate that feeling with what you see on the camera. So oftentimes this could be, for me, in a snatch or a clean or something, if I feel like I caught it unbalanced or something, my awareness of my body might create a hyper awareness of slight imbalances, but then if I look at the camera, it might be extremely minor, or I may pick up something that I don't notice. So something that I've noticed on cleans lately is that my left arm in the front rack will be a little bit lower than my right arm. This isn't sort of a mobility issue, it's more of a strength issue on that part of my body, but it's something that I don't necessarily feel when I'm doing a heavy clean, but it's something I notice on the video. So it's something that I can think about when I am doing a heavy clean to really kind of focus on pushing that left arm up. And it does help. It allows you to catch those heavier weights in a better position, but also allows you to kind of flex your body in the ways that are going to be the most benefit. I'm not as worried about what my right arm's doing because my right arm's going into the correct position. I need to focus on what the left arm's doing. And having that awareness and ability to make those adjustments during your lift, I think is an extremely important thing for everyone to be able to do in any sort of lifting, but one that really helps in the weightlifting movements. And I think a lot of that comes down to, one, the kinesthetic awareness, knowing where your body is and knowing how to make those adjustments in a physical way, but also having the athletic ability to actually do those movements. Because I could think about that with my arm, but maybe I wouldn't have the level of coordination to be able to actually elicit that kind of response in my body. I might just continue to do the same thing, even if I am trying to do that. So I think having some sort of baseline level of athletic ability is very important to improving the lifts. If you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to make physical changes in how you move and be able to continue to get stronger. But that's an important concept, and it kind of relates to the second one, but I wanted to separate it out into its own section because it is a very important one to know how your body is moving and being able to have that feel of where your body is in space. The last section is about grit, and this is probably just the most important section because no matter how flexible you are, how good of a technical eye that you may have, how athletic that you are, you just have to have the grit. And anytime someone has asked me to show them how to do a clean or a snatch and they eventually quit, it comes down to grit. They don't have the ability to push themselves in a way that's not comfortable, not rewarding, and can be very physically and emotionally painful. When you're really bad at snatches, like how I kind of still am, but even when I first started, I was significantly worse. It's very frustrating to do a weight that feels really light in your hands and to miss it over and over and over and try to fix something and it not work, and you just keep missing and you just keep not being successful. Having the grit and the ability to just keep coming back and to keep trying is perhaps the most important part of lifting in general. If you don't have it, you're not going to be able to stick with lifting for a very long time, because if you are always successful with lifts, then you are one of one, because nobody is always successful with any sort of lifting that they do. You have to be able to practice the movements, even if they feel bad, even if you feel bad, every single day, or at least a significant portion of your week. When I started weightlifting, I got addicted to it and I wanted to do it every day. I was very bad at it, but I enjoyed it and I wanted to get better at it. And it was something where I felt like if I worked really hard, I could get better at. And you just have to be able to work hard at the movements and be okay with being bad at it for a very long time and making slow gains and slow progress with the lifts. Because at first, everyone gets faster or gets stronger very quickly at first. If you start with a 60 kilo snatch, you might get to 80 pretty quick. You might even get to 100 pretty quick. But going from 100 to 110 or whatever number you kind of slow down at starts to become more and more difficult to add more and more weight to the bar. Obviously, that's true of every lift, but with weightlifting movements, you can do 90% of a lift and it feels extremely easy, and you try 92% and you're not even close. And it could be on random days to where 80% feels like 90% and sometimes 90% feels like 105%. But you have to be able to continue to come back and to continue to try to get better. Because it's not just showing up and doing the lifts that is the important part and the major part of grit. But you have to be willing to always want to try to get a little bit better and to always be looking at things that you can improve upon, whether it's with the lifts themselves, whether it's with your programming, whether it's with your recovery. You have to be willing and able to identify those things that you're bad at and to develop ways to get better at them. If you're not able to do that, you're probably just not going to get very strong in general in any lifts that you do, but especially in weightlifting. And I think that's something that it really teaches you when you start to do snatches and clean and jerks, is how difficult and how unforgiving they are, but at the same time, how rewarding and how fun they can be. They're certainly not for everyone, but if you do kind of learn the movements and you kind of stick with it, you will get better. Nobody knows how strong you'll be able to get, and if you use stuff like steroids, you'll probably get a lot stronger than someone like me, but if you don't have the grit, it doesn't matter what you do, you won't really get that good at the movements because you'll just want to quit. Everyone wants to quit at different points, but if you don't have that ability to push through that, then there's not really any point of starting in the first place. So you have to kind of establish when you start that you're going to commit and you're going to work hard, because that's all it really takes. I mean, I'm not really that physically gifted, but I was able to push myself to get to the numbers I'm at now and hopefully be able to push myself a bit further. And if I wasn't crazy enough to keep working at it every day or most days, then I would be still doing 100 kilogram clean and jerks and 80 kilo snatches. I wouldn't have improved anywhere near to where I am now. But that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoy this bit of a different take on my regular videos, because I don't really do these kind very often. And hopefully you got a little bit of something out of this and maybe a little motivation to improve your lifts. But that's going to be it for now. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace.